Meeting is now being recorded.
Okay, so we're going to now move on to the order, ship, bill, order to cash, or profitability vignette. And seemingly when we start these conversations, it usually revolves around pretty easy to answer or seemingly easy to answer questions that would be really important to the company, such as, hey, can you review profitability for one of our current customers, in this case, Max Neat Bikes. So, sure, let's go ahead and start looking at that process. And, what other processes or questions come up in the order to cash conversation within an organization? I mean, certainly how profitable is the company today? It's an enterprise-wide, company level. But also, can we slice and dice that information a little bit more and really understand profitability at the customer, product, or even the most granular level of the actual sales order level? And that's what we're going to go ahead and look at right now. So, hopping into the SAP finance system, you can see I'm organizing my tiles in the way that makes sense to me. I've got some home tiles. We can have a real-time news flash, or maybe a company news flash if you guys have a company RSS feed. Alternatively, I can organize my work the way I want to. And in this case, I've got a whole section that's just the traditional OTC or order cash to profitability group. You can see in here we've arranged our tiles in the workflow that makes sense to us. So in this case, we're going to go through the order, ship, and bill tiles. Additionally, we're going to look at some analysis with a real-time dashboard that we have built into the system, as well as our Excel add-on analysis for Office, where we can really do that slicing and dicing dynamic look at our data that's so desirable right now. And just before we dive into this, I want to show one thing, and that's this sales fulfillment issues. I'm doing this because most frequently our customers automate the order to cash process very heavily. We're going to go through this step by step so you can see what's going on behind the scenes. But that being said, realistically, most customers just look at this at a exception-based finance system. So everything's going to be automated, and I just want to see my issues. So, for example, here I've got a tile with my issues for one of my customers, Paisley's Pedals. You can see we've got a shipping issue, 2 credit blocks, and some issues within the sales order. If I wanted to, I could go ahead and drill into this information or take action on that issue. So I've got a nice graphical display of what's going on with my issues, where in the order, ship, bill process the issue is coming up, and right from the same screen I can go ahead and manage those issues as they come up. So for example, let me go ahead and close this, but if I'm looking at the issues that were in the order, I can see there's some delivery issues. And as this is done rendering, I can go ahead and open up that issue and look at it one by one, either reject the sales order, resolve the incomplete data, move billing blocks, delivery blocks, or go into the process flow and really figure out what's going on. So right now you can see that order, ship, bill process, issues in the delivery area. As an analyst in the OTC department, I would come in and just resolve these as a exception-based process. And you can do that at whatever level you need. So in this case, I've got all sales order issues for our entire company, and in this case, it's the entire demo system. And I've also got it for my 2 customers that I manage, Max Neat Bikes and Paisley's Pedals. So anyway, that's something I want to note, but since you did request looking into this more fully, I'm going to go ahead and do the order, ship, bill process. That was an interesting error. I've not seen that one before. So back to where we were, we're going to go ahead and start out with the sales order process of creating sales order. And in this case, go ahead and put in my customer ID as well as a PO number. And you can see once that information is entered, I've auto-populated my customer. I've got access via hyperlink to all of their information as a business partner. So if I needed to reach out to them and get in touch, I could look right into that from this home screen, so I don't have to go searching. The other thing you can see here is enterprise-wide search. So I type in the word bike. I don't have to remember some complicated material names. I just have to remember which material I want with a name that's a little easier to handle. We'll go ahead and enter in a quantity of 2 bikes. Let's say we just got off the phone and are looking for an order. And when what you can see now is after I enter my quantity and I have my customer in, the material data knows what pricing I want to do for this product. I can look at this a little more closely if I'd like to, and I can see really kind of a line item level budget for this standard order, what our price is, gross value, any sales commissions that we'd like to put in, and ultimately my profit, which is really what we're trying to do here. Also, I can add or edit this however I'd like to. If I don't want to use my standard pricing, I could just change that price here. That's an open changeable source. Or maybe I'll working on a discount, and let's go ahead and say we're going to put in a 10% discount for this pair of bikes. If I come back, all of my pricing up here has been updated, and I can go ahead and save. A few things to note that are going on behind the scenes as I'm saving this standard order. A lot of things are happening, and this would happen as well if you're automating the process. First things first, we're checking credit for this business partner and ultimately customer that we're selling this to. Want to make sure that they are under their credit limits and able to be in a place where we feel good making this order. Next steps in the process that happen is going into the shipping level. So let's go ahead and say we're going to ship this 3 days down the road. And at this point, I'd be jumping over to more of a role of maybe a warehouse manager or clerk and someone who's walking around looking for these pair of bikes and making sure we have them. Now, the inventory checks already happened before we put in that sales order. If we didn't have available inventory on hand, we would have gotten an alert for that, and it would have said, hey, let's stop this process here and make sure that we're either making the customer aware that there's going to be a delay or maybe not moving forward with this sales order. And that's where earlier you could see the sales issues that would have come up there. So now I'm walking around with my little scanner. I see the 2 bikes. I pick them, and I can come in and say, yes, I put my hands on them, I packaged them, and they're picked and ready to go. One of the things you can see here is there's a dangerous goods check. So, for example, if we've got lithium-ion, lithium batteries, or any other sort of dangerous good with batteries being so common now, this is a nice feature for a lot of groups. That will happen in this process. So if I'm the person in the packing warehouse area, I would go ahead and come here, pick 2 products, and right now, while I'm posting this goods issue, a dangerous goods check would be run as well. So I've now got a outbound delivery number, and all of these documents are getting created together. So one of the things you'll notice throughout SAP is a concept called related documents. What that is really this 3-pack of documents that we've just created: the order, the packing document or the shipping process, and the bill. All 3 of those documents that have been created are now grouped together in this related documents concept. That helps us track an entire process from end to end in the order to ship, or the OTC process. We'll be able to see all these documents in one place, link in between them at any time, and really see a dynamic flow of what's going on with this specific order. So that's really cool. So this was the final step, the billing. All I did is come in and put in my shipping documents, and we've created a billing document. Ultimately, this billing document could be leveraged in a few different ways. If you like to send out electronic receipts of your bills, that's fine. We can go ahead and do that either by email or post into a web page, whatever you need to do in this case. So that was the order to cash scenario. Now let's move on and really get down to that concept that we talked about earlier, and that's the slicing and dicing of our profitability. And I mentioned this can come up in a variety of ways, and one of the things that might happen right now is someone will come down the office and say, hey, can you get me this report? I'm looking for this, I'm looking for that. Well, same sort of thing can happen here, but we do have a concept, a little chat agent embedded within the program that's really nice for this. And this is called Copilot. But what Copilot does is, you guys have all used chat, whether it's an old AIM or Gmail or iChat, whatever you're using out there. But this is really an enterprise-wide one that takes this whole financial system for SAP to the next level. And it also makes it not just a finance tool, but it makes it a communication tool. So in this case, I'm out at a customer and I get a chat from my boss. Hey, can I get a profitability report by customer? Ultimately, that's what we're trying to drive down here. And can we get it by product sold to them and by individual sales order? In your current system, how hard is it to pull all of this information together if you've got customers in multiple countries, maybe all around the world? How could you get that global view of what are my sales in this case of bikes to, Costco across the world? I could be selling them to that same customer and want to look at that entirely across the world. Or maybe I just want to look at it for Costco in North America or down to the state, down by the product, whatever. You can stop the profitability search at a bunch of different levels. But what I want to show here is how we have all of our information in real time. So I just put that sales order in, and let me go ahead and go back and check my sales order number before I forget. So it ends in 755. Very good. But here's what we're looking at in terms as seeing all of this information in a live environment in a very simple, easy to use way. So right now, our demo system has just got data going back 3 years since it's still fairly early in the year. I'll go ahead and look at profitability across the last 2 years of my organization. Right now, you can see we've got profitability in Canada at 27%, profitability in the U.S. at 25%. If I want to drill down and just look at profitability within the U.S., you can notice this is a dynamic graph. I could look at it for my home state, 24%, a little lower than average. Okay, same thing in Illinois. Michigan, we're able to get a little higher profit level. Maine, a little lower, so on and so forth. Just really easy to use dynamic sorting of our data. Maybe I want to look at this on a different level by product line. I can come into the top area and use a little drop down to look at my profitability across each state by product line. But in this case, let's just see what it looks like across the entire U.S. And this is a little small right here, so I'll go ahead and expand that. Again, just a very nice, easy to use user interface. I can now look at what's my product line profitability across cruise bikes, mountain bikes, racing bikes, youth bikes, etc. So really, really nice way to come in and look at that data in different ways really quickly. Or maybe I want to look at profitability trend by those same product lines. And here you can see there's a huge dip on our last year's profitability. We actually sold some bikes at a loss in our youth lineup. This could be something that we know about because we have a company policy that we do these spring sales on youth bikes. We're going to sell those at a small loss so we can bring parents into the shop and start making some of these higher revenue sales to the parent side. And we're willing to give up some profitability on kids' bikes. It might be a nice thing to have as a corporate strategy, and even better, let's go ahead and reaffirm what we're doing here visually. So nice little chart there. I could even search by product. I have a handful of products in here. Maybe I'm just looking to figure this out by just one product, but if you remember that text that I got or the chat from my boss, I'm looking for it by customer. So in this case, we sold the bike to Max Neat Bike company, my favorite little company around. I go ahead and select that. You can see my analytics change to reflect just my current customer selection. All the bikes are being sold in New York, where Maxine bikes are. All of our graphs have been updated, as well as my profitability. What about that last level of granularity? What if I wanted to see just by my last sales order? And again, that was sales order 61755. You can see 61755 pops right up. And now I'm looking at this at the most granular level, all the way down to a sales order. So what we've been able to do is look at profitability across our entire enterprise worldwide, look at it by state, look at it by product line. We could sort by product. Ultimately, in this case, what we were searching for was by customer, and seeing and confirming that real-time nature. I just put a sales order in, and here we are. So that's the order, ship, bill process. I could now either send update with some of those numbers. I could give her a link to this book. I could snapshot those, or let's maybe look at the profitability analysis workbook, which is really how most accountants feel most comfortable. So this is that profitability workbook, and ultimately what this is a Excel user interface that is really nice, because most accountants, most financial people, at the end of the day, they feel most comfortable in Excel. So we went ahead and built a Excel add-on for our system. Now, I'm not looking at this data in Excel. I'm just using Excel as a portal into my SAP S4 environment. Ultimately, what that's doing is it allows us to use something that's very familiar to us, easy to use, easy to manipulate, easy to update if we have something that is not in our centralized finance system and we need to bring in maybe a additional customer or some data. We can just put that in an additional row and then aggregate the text or aggregate the data. Obviously, that's not our goal here, but let's say you just had a acquisition and you want to look at revenue from a group that you haven't brought onto the system yet. That would be a use case for being able to do that. Everyone's used data charts, I assume. This analysis is just really a ultra powerful pivot chart that's built in. It's got access to all of our dimensions within the Universal Journal. We can bring in the ones that are applicable for whatever workbook we're working on. In this case, it's that profitability. So in our profitability workbook, we have the dimensions that would be interesting to a lot of our customers. So maybe you're looking at, hey, what's my profitability by plant? How hard is that to figure in those systems? Or maybe within a sales organization, or by division or region. Any way you want to look at it, we can help you sort on that information and really slice and dice to the right level you want. Again, I'm looking at profitability over the last 2 years since it's early in the year. And I've also got my variance table right here. So that's pretty nice and handy. But what I'm wanting to do to focus in and reply to my boss is get that profitability for this year for my current customer, Max Neat Bikes. Double-clicking, I went ahead and filtered down my data really quickly. So now I'm just looking at this year, and I can start dragging and dropping my information over. So as I drop into this columns area, my workbook will update, and now I've got every customer account that's in my system and profitability for all of our groups. Ultimately, if they said, I want all of our customers, I want to look at profitability across the entire system, well, here you go. Pretty quick and easy to figure that out. What about if I want to come back and look for my customer? I haven't lost any of my Excel functionality. I did a quick Control F, went to my customer, and I'm going to double-click on them again and pop back to the home screen. And here we go. Now I've got my profitability just by my customer. So think about that. We did a year-over-year comparison, went straight from that at that highest enterprise-wide level. Now we're looking at profitability just by customer. How complicated is that in your current system? If we want to go the next level, maybe I want to look at product. So what are my bikes that are most profitable to sell to my customer, Mac, here? In this case, I've got the 8 or so. Let's see how many we got in here. 7 bikes that I've sold to Max Neat Bikes this year, and I can see revenue, sales numbers across the line. I can see all my sales and discounts. So where am I getting those discounts up? And ultimately, what are those profitabilities? You can also see in here, I'm able to see my COGS. Not only am I seeing COGS, I'm seeing broken down COGS. That's very difficult for a lot of organizations to do and get the information correctly. In this case, you can see one of my bikes is a pre-built bike. I'm just buying it as a finished goods, whereas some of these other bikes, they have labor and overhead costs. So I'm getting that detailed view of what's my COGS across the product, but as well as where was COGS coming in? Is it a finished product? Is it something that we have expenses on? How do my labor expenses compare for bikes, my commuter bike 950 and my mountain bike 500? It's a great piece of information that we have really easy to access. Let's get a little more granular. Let's go down to the sales order number. Now you can see which bikes popped up on each sales order. So in this case, I've got my bike MCM1 appearing on all these sales orders. That can be really useful information for some analytics. Other analytics might say, you know, I want it the other way around. I want to look at my sales orders and what bikes appear on those. Quick drag and drop, and we're able to update that. And now look at all of my sales orders, which bikes were on those, what's my profitability for them. If I go back and remind myself one last time, I'm looking for the bike or the sales order ending in 755. I think we bought 2 bikes. So let's go ahead and just search for 755. And here you go. At the end of the workbook, we can see our most recent update. Again, it's a real-time system. And I can now look at my profitability for that particular sales order. The last thing that might be necessary in this situation is pulling in my document number. The reason this is really helpful is, in this case, we did do the full order, ship, bill process. We were kind of in that super accountant role where we were doing all of it. Let's say you didn't know what this product was, or you didn't remember this sales order. You weren't responsible for that part of the process, and you're looking at a particular sales order that doesn't really look right, where you're not sure why we're getting some discounts. We're not sure why we're changing our standard pricing. Something along those lines, we can go ahead and link in right by selecting the document within Excel and go back to our source system. So take a little moment to render as it's pulling up a lot of data within the system. But what this will do is ultimately show us our original sales order that we had inside the system. So again, if we're switching roles, leaving the person who actually put the order in, and you're going back to that managerial role or FP&A role, you can go ahead and go back to this most granular level of sales order and review, hey, when did it get put in? Of course, it just got put in this morning. We just did this together live. What were our accounts receivable? Where were our deductions or that discount we saw, as well as the related documents. So this goes back to that related documents concept that I talked about. It shows us all of our documents in one place that are binded to this actual journal entry. So it's the sales order, the shipping documents, the billing documents, the workflow to get us there through that order, ship, bill process, as well as the accounting documents that were published. A nice visual representation of that, if I link back into my sales order, that original sales order we created a few moments ago, I can see all my business partner levels. So in this case, the sold to, bill to, ship to, pay person was all coming from the same place. If you've got a more complicated customer structure, for you guys, well, I guess we used the Costco example earlier. So maybe I've got a Costco customer at the highest level, but I want to ship it to a regional store, and I'm billing it shipping it to a particular store in my home state of Colorado. We could have that information in, as well as maybe a bill to address or bill to portion of that customer could be separately defined. Maybe you're billing just the regional headquarters out in Washington or whatnot. And this is that visual representation of that related documents that we discussed. So the order, ship, bill, process, all of these are here. You could drill back into them. And last but not least, we're waiting to see this clear through accounting. One last little story back here on our profitability workbook that we can do that slicing and dicing. And we could do the same conversation within this real-time profitability analysis dashboard. One of the things we like to talk about at SAP is you really never know what the customer need is. And one of the interesting things that we're able to do is give that flexibility to have dynamic reporting, slice and dice on any level that you want to. And we see really innovative ways that people are using this. Not just looking at product group or customer group or actual sales order, but some of these dimensions that we talked about earlier. And one of the stories that was interesting to me was Schwans Delivery Company. They're a group out of the Midwest that you guys might know them or know someone who does a similar office or similar offering where you guys are from. And they're the group that delivers milk. And, I remember growing up, my family used to have like 2 gallons of milk delivered every week. We had, a few kids in the family, and we had the Schwans truck come around. And, at the end of the month, you'd get a little note of, hey, here are other offerings coming up, whether it's, some cinnamon rolls or fresh bread or, something seasonal like eggnog or whatever. And Schwans went out and they looked at profitability across the company, and one of the things they really couldn't figure out was there were some pretty big variations. And they started doing some of this analysis like we are, where, hey, maybe it's regional, maybe it's by state, maybe it's by zip code. They really couldn't figure it out, and ultimately when they used one of these dimensions that they added in, which was truck driver. And what they ultimately found out was their leading driver that was changing or improving their profitability was actually their truck driver. And what they were able to do as a company from this was, hey, let's get these top 10 truck drivers in the same room or, on a phone call, talk to them. What are their best practices? How are they driving higher profitability compared to the same truck driver who's, just a zip code away, seemingly would have the same market? They went ahead, found out some of these best practices, realized it was people learning names, making those little connections, taking the small steps, helping out with, being nice to a dog, dropping a dog treat, some of these things, and getting that customer connection so they could ultimately use the promotional products that had higher profitability, like the eggnog at the end of the season or fresh eggs or something like that. And they were able to distribute that best practice across the company and really learn from that and increase profitability for the entire organization at the end of the day. So a really cool way to use this kind of a feature when you have all of your information connected and live to be able to sort down. Ultimately, this conversation got started by this co-pilot conversation with my boss. Now I've been able to go through my profitability from the enterprise level down through customer, product, and ultimately sales order. These web pages are these reports are easy to generate, easy to save down, easy to make a PDF on, and print them off. I could reply through our connected co-pilot system right here. So that's profitability. Profitability looks good. You saw how we were able to drill through that.